Good evening, everyone, and welcome to yet another interesting episode of Lessons from the Masters, brought to you by Aditya Birla Sun Life Mutual Fund. Friends, women have been actively participating in the mutual fund industry. In fact, a CAMS report says that 24% of 1.70 lakh millennial investors in financial year 2019 were women. This hints at their increasing participation in finances. This also indicates growing business opportunities for MFDs and makes it imperative for them to understand what women clients seek from their MFDs and advisors. In this episode of Lessons from the Masters, we have with us Sapna Narang, Managing Partner at Capital League. Sapna has been in the wealth management space for almost 3 decades. Before Capital League, Sapna was associated with HSBC Bank and BNP Paribas. She is a certified financial planner from FPS USA and she has done BE and MBA. In 2019, Sapna featured in the Association of International Wealth Management's list of India's top 100 women in finance. She has also authored a book titled Investing is the New Cooking. So let us discover the secret of attracting women clients. To help us spill the beans, we are privileged to have with us Mr. Rao, who is Senior Vice President and Head of Distribution Development and Investor Education at Aditya Birla Sun Life. Under Mr. Rao's leadership, Aditya Birla Sun Life Mutual Fund has bagged many awards, including Asia Asset Management Award in the Best Investor Education category. So Mr. Rao has been on the journey to make every Indian financially aware. So welcome, Mr. Rao, and welcome, Sapna. Over to you, Mr. Rao.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nishant. Thanks a lot. And indeed, nice of you to make this happen. And good evening to Sapna ji for joining us. It was a little last minute changes. Thank you so much for accepting that invite and making that happen. Thank you so much. Good evening to all. Indeed, I pray that I wish you, each one of you are doing well and your families, everyone is fine. And wave 2 definitely shaking up. And last time when we met, it was April 12th. I think things from then to now, we all had one or the other turmoil. I think it's at least either directly or indirectly, we all impacted. Trust everything is fine and do take care. Thanks for joining this evening. It's we will have a quick conversations. Probably we will run a little faster and ensure if there is any of your questions, use Q&A box. We can use the questions later with Sapna ji. And this is going to be a very interesting session in terms of understanding the journey of Capital League and Sapna, but also what is that we can do with the women investors, because this is one area most of us would have done some job, but it's so India's 48% of the population, they are the significant drivers, they are the influencers, they are the stakeholders. But I'm sure we have not done enough justice to reach out to them and communicate to them the language which they understand. And not that they can't manage, they manage everything well at home. And this is where, I like the Sapna's book, investing is a new cooking. I think when every household, I mean, during this lockdown, probably it's like all the men also started cooking. That's the best part of it. But it's let us see how that understanding can happen. I mean, today women are scripting their own success stories. Can we make that success stories extended and expanded to the financial success stories? With this, I'll stop and I'll have Sapna ji. Good evening, Sapna ji, for joining us. Indeed, it's great to have you, and you took time, and it's great. And to start with, our conversation, you had such a long stint, a wonderful career in the private banking space, and you had with the Capital. Now you started Capital League way back in 2003, and probably I know the reasons could be what could be made you to leave the banking career and starting this, and how was the challenges?
So, good evening. Thank you for having me. It was not a spur of the moment decision where I suddenly got up and said, okay, I'm going to leave HSBC and start a firm. It was like a journey. There were a number of events over the years that kept nudging me towards, leaving and starting something of my own, becoming a financial advisor. So when I started my career in banking more than 2 decades ago, typically in investments, one had bank deposits or one had RBI bonds. And then the concept of private banking was introduced in India in a few foreign banks. And when I joined private banking, then we got exposed to how to make portfolios with direct equity, mutual funds, corporate deposits. That's the time when mutual funds had just started coming into India, started setting up their business. And slowly, after a few years of setting up private banking, then the concept of financial planning was introduced in India. I was among the first few people who sat for the exams and became a certified financial planner. And when I got exposed to financial planning, that is when I first realized the huge scope that financial advisory has and the impact that it can have on a family's wealth. Also, I realized that clients were basically looking for a trusted confidant for investment advice. And whether or not you had a big name on your visiting card was not the prior, was not the main thing that they were looking for. So all these things put together influenced me, and that's how I took the decision to leave HSBC and start a boutique wealth management firm in 2003.
Yeah, it's really congratulations. It was not easy decision at that point. Somebody is taking a decision to start a boutique, and it could be the not only the you are one among those few people who completed the CFP in the first 100 people. You are maybe among them, and second, you started the premier banking at HSBC Bank, and that's a kudos to you. And starting was not easy at that point of time, but you're always on the women empowerment, and the Capital League has got all women employees and all seasoned professionals. It's like today we thought most of our audience today are MFDs and who would like to focus on their business. I mean, how the MFD women clients can be an opportunity to look at, and why does it make sense to have women clients, pitch for women clients for any MFD?
So women are a very important segment to focus on, whether they are directly your clients or they are a member of the client family that you interact with. See, with the shift in education, awareness, employment, earning power, and of course, increase in financial literacy, women are not only becoming financially independent, they are getting more involved with their families' financial planning, decision making, influencing the decisions. So I remember maybe 10, 15 years back, even senior corporate women clients would not take much interest in their own investments. And we would typically, for the women clients' money, we would be interacting with their husbands. But that is changing now. And as more and more women enter the job market, it presents a huge opportunity for the entire industry. And we see this opportunity across women of all age groups and all kinds of profile and all kind of status segments. So a woman's behavior when it comes to investing is influenced by societal, parental, or marital dynamics, what we call social conditioning. So when we look at a younger woman who has lived large part of their lives through a more progressive time period, they are the ones who will be quick in taking interest in their finances, be involved in the decision making as much as men in the similar age profile. So this group of younger women is a big evolving opportunity, and many women in this age group of 25 to 35 are equity investors. So the perception that women are risk averse and cautious investors mostly does not apply to this group. Then as we move to the more middle-aged group, it would be a mix. Many of the women who are working in this segment are involved in their investment decisions. Many of them would take collective decisions with their husbands or families. There are also many single women in this group who obviously manage their investments themselves. Then when you move to the older group, so say in the 70s and 80s, I would say most women in this group would probably not be, taking interest, be closely involved in the investment decisions. Again, as I referred, that it is due to the social conditioning that they have gone through the major part of their lives, where it is that men are responsible for the money, men take the investment decisions. However, women in this age group end up inheriting the portfolio in event of their husband's death. So in the Indian context, most married women in this age group, typically, there is a age gap Some of them are 5-6 years, some of them even 8-10 years younger than than their husbands, and women tend to outlive men. So quite a few of them, we've seen some of our clients, now they end up being responsible, having inherited the portfolios which earlier their husbands were managing. And this is a segment which requires a lot of hand holding, empathy, and sensitivity. So, as mutual fund distributors, it is very important for us to focus on women in our client families. They could be earners themselves, they could be wealth creators, they could be influencers, they could be decision makers, and some of them could end up being inheritors.
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting answer. It's very true. It is like, women outlive men, and that's where the opportunity is much huge. And for them, it's must, they need to plan. And COVID has thrown out many of the people today to understand finances. I think it's our responsibility. In fact, I was telling most of my friend MFDs, before even acquiring the women clients, whatever the clients you have a family conversations, let women know what is that whole family investments are.
Yes, it's important to keep them involved.
Of course, some of them as a financial plan, that would be one. And you are rightly put it today, women, they are earning and they're, they are inheriting and they're controlling majority of the finances. And there was one study which I was reading, it is from the World Bank study, which says like 77% of Indian women are having a bank account today. But unfortunately, that same study also talks about 4/5 of the women financially not that literate. And this is a general perception. Of course, there is a perception also women lack knowledge in the finance, and data, and that is the reason they won't take interest in finances. Is it true? Does it make MFDs easier job, or is it complicated for MFDs to have a conversation or acquire women clients?
So there are a lot of perceptions relating to women investors. Women do not have knowledge, they do not take interest, they are cautious, risk averse. Firstly, it's like with any kind of segment, you cannot treat them like a homogeneous group. All individuals are unique, men or women. Every client comes with his or her unique requirements, circumstances, life experiences, and all these affect their investment behavior. And as a advisor or MFT, wealth manager, whatever, we have to understand their situation, their preferences, and take all this into account when we are dealing with the client, irrespective of whether it's a woman or a man. See, traditionally in Indian households, men have taken care of the money. It's considered a man's domain. And women have typically taken care of the home and the family. So women have not been involved in financial planning for the household. A lot of women have grown up watching this sort of role divide between the parents. And till a few years back, I would say this perception would have applied to a large section of women, notwithstanding their social status or their level of affluence or education, working or homemaker. But all these things are changing now. As I mentioned earlier, more women are working, more of them are becoming aware, they have access to social media, they have access to information, and as you yourself said, vast majority now have got access and are independently managing their bank accounts. So as MFT, our role entails understanding the client requirements and circumstances, guiding them, giving them all the necessary information that will help them in taking an informed decision. Some of our clients are better informed than others. So based on our assessment of each investor, each lady client that we have, we need to take that extra effort, go that extra mile to help them understand the investment scenario, the different products, cut down the jargon, put across the pros and cons in a simple manner, see what is appropriate for them, for their particular circumstances, their particular financial plan. So the difference between a male and female investor, again, it's male and female trait broadly, is that a male investor, even if he lacks financial knowledge, most likely they will not be upfront about it. Whereas a woman investor, we see that even with some amount of knowledge, will typically underplay and say, oh, I don't understand this. Can you explain this further? So in our business, we need to, set up a good relationship with our clients. We need to understand their perspective. We need to be sensitive to them. We need to be empathetic to their situation, patiently guide them so that they can be more comfortable and take informed decision. These are the things that go a long way in building the trust relationship with any client. And once we do that, then it becomes a long-term rewarding relationship.
Absolutely, well put it. And in fact, I was reading a couple of studies which is on the Demat opening in the last 1 year. This is one with the Sher Khan. Sher Khan talks about in India, like 20% of their active trading Demat accounts today belongs to women.
Yes.
That clearly shows they are showing a lot of interest in what you said is right.
Yes.
And last 1 year, the number of new accounts, even I think Nishant was talking earlier on the mutual fund folios, but 32% of the new Demat accounts of the millennials belongs to women. It's roughly around 1/3. That is a significant progress. Probably when we are we need not be very perception oriented. You are right. It is everyone is very different. Each of us are very different, whether it is a man or woman. And I keep telling in my financial literacy session, money doesn't know which gender is handling.
Yes.
And you need to that's as good as that. And only one need to be sensitive when you are handling with a woman is we need. I personally feel, because that's where in the family counseling it so happens. You should understand what they don't want before what they want it. When you are dealing with the clients, probably they don't want to be a stereotype. They don't want to be talked down to them. And they don't want to be judged like you do not know anything. That's a sensitivity.
Yes.
Any one of us when we are dealing with the clients, and what they want is, it's like we need to hear them. For example, even at the family counseling, we talk about first you need to hear them, like their voice to be heard. And probably you are right, they are very prone to get educated and they're ready to get educated. In fact, there's one of the studies, I think you mentioned in your book about Susie Oman, and in one of the studies Susie Oman talks about how women are very open and they're very confident. They're today they want to have a financial advisor. They are looking for a very long-term association. You are perfectly said on bank. And is it like the question next comes is women constitute an immediate it's a necessity part of our conversations as well as clients. And but is that communication pitch to them? I'm talking about not exactly a family type, but if I'm going to talk to only women, was it to be a different pitch or from the men, or we need to be anything else to be sensitized?
See, in terms of a business pitch, when we make a business pitch, whether it's a male client or a female client, our business pitch more or less will be similar. The difference is while dealing with women, there needs to be more touch points in terms of communication, in terms of sometimes a phone call, sometimes an email, explain something more, loop back and say, was this clear? Can I give you more information? Conversations where you are much more conscious of being a listener, rather than demonstrating your level of knowledge and throwing jargon. Women, as you also just mentioned, they want to understand more. They want to be listened to. They want to have longer conversations. So they want to be more well-informed, more, part of the decision-making process, and then take the next step and say, okay, this is what I want to do. Right. So the difference is in terms of, as I said, more patient listening, more empathy, being very conscious of the fact that you don't talk down to them, you talk to them. And this thing about talking down is actually a baggage of the financial industry, because historically relationship managers have been men. And it's not just the women who've been socially conditioned. Obviously, the men who are there in the jobs have also been conditioned in a particular way over 15, 20, 30 years. Right? So this perception, many of them go to the meeting with this perception that, this lady, she will not understand. Oh, I can throw this jargon. She won't know. And without knowing it, somehow subconsciously that will get conveyed in the communication. So it is very important as MFDs or wealth managers, advisors, that we leave our baggage, try our best to leave our baggage of perceptions outside before we start a meeting with women?
The question comes is always is like, most of the MFDs I'm talking about, not the top MFDs, but those who are at 10 crores, 200 crores of business, they want to acquire women clients. Would you like to say something to them? How do they prospect, or how do they acquire women clients and female clients? I mean, specifically.
See, the basic of how we acquire or we go about acquiring a woman client is very similar to a male client. I mean, it is like prospecting for any client, right? Majority of our clients come through referrals. That's the best source of getting a new client. So when a satisfied client refers you to a friend or a family and they say you've done a good job, then half the battle is already won. And the conversion rates in these kind of referrals is very, very high. Now, the thing to understand is that women by nature are more social creatures, right? So if you see among your own family or women relatives, they will tend to be part of some kind of a woman's group, right? It could
Right.
be anything. It could be a kitty party group, a books club, a bridge club, a reading club. It could even be a kind of a association for kirtan or some kind of puja, or so women tend to have more of these community groups vis-a-vis men. So that kind of thing becomes a very good source of referral. So for example, if you've had a long relationship with a woman client and she is really happy and you've taken, she will tend to refer you or mention you to the other people in her group. And that group could be any group depending upon your the kind of profile of clients one deals with. Also, over the years, as I said, one is of course word of mouth. We particularly have given talks at women oriented conferences, presentations at different women's forums. There is a section of FICCI, Federation of Indian Industries, which has a women's chapter. So we became a member of that chapter for a number of years. We would go for the meetings and meet other women there. We've been having annual events for our clients and prospects for more than a decade now. So it'll be in a nice hotel. Sometimes we have a singer. Sometimes somebody sing poetry, or sometimes it's a mutual fund manager giving talk about the economy, followed by somebody a lighter entertainment. So in all these kind of occasions, we invite our women clients and we request them to, or ask them to invite their women friends on our behalf. And they've been to our event, so they know it's nice dinner, nice interaction, good environment. So they feel confident. They call a few. When the other women friends come, prospects come, they see our team, they see the other kind of client, and it gives them the confidence to approach us, to sit with us, to open up and discuss their issues with us. And then that sort of lays the groundwork for prospecting and converting them into our clients. So you also, depending upon your client profile, you can approach them, request them to allow you to speak at whatever is the forum that they are part of. It could be a reading club, so they could be maybe 7-8 members, and you can request if you can come for half an hour and talk about some retirement planning or some other financial planning thing. You could go to their mahjong meet or their kitty party or whatever it be. So ultimate basics remain the same of acquiring any client, that one tries to be present either physically or virtually in the space where the target client is there, so that you have visibility, they can see you, they can understand you, they can have a chance to listen to your ideas, your presentations, and so on and so forth.
I think well put it. It's a very nice insights on getting the referrals right. And this is a question to you is on a financial advisor approaching the woman, but whether woman is looking, what kind of traits they are looking at in the financial advisor. What are the 3 things, in the mind one has to keep it like this?
Largely every client would look at similar things in an advisor, trustworthy, reliable, competent, has the knowledge, is transparent, communicates well, offers good services. So these are the basics. Now, depending upon the kind of investor you are interacting with, each investor will have their own requirements. So Some like to talk more. Someone wants, Excel spreadsheet after Excel spreadsheet till the last thing is understood. Some will just talk to you for some time, understand, and that's their way of gaining confidence, and then they leave it to you to take it further. So let's say you're dealing with an elderly woman who does not understand too much of the investment scenario all that much. And the thing she appreciates most is your time and your attention. So she derives comfort from the fact that you're just a phone call away. You're there whenever she needs you. If she's confused with some paperwork or something, you are quick to revert. She feels confident that you have the overall financial situation under control. So you need to be accessible, approachable in this particular case. And as I said, it's the client profile which determines which particular trait you will push more. There could be certain women clients who are working, who are very busy and want very brief communication over a WhatsApp or an email, don't want to have long conversations, So many of these women today go through their own research. They will access different kinds of mediums like a cafe mutual or something to get information and then have a meeting with you, in a more informed way. So it's a client profile which will determine the interaction. You cannot, club it and say this is what women want. But the basics remain the same: trustworthy, reliable, competent, communicate well, be open, transparent. Those basics will remain the same, whether it's a man or a woman.
Absolutely. I think, apart from you put it very nicely, but one need to be a little sensitive while you are handling. Just don't think that, you can. I mean, you put it very nicely. And here is a question comes when MFD, if female clients, would they trust more of the female MFDs, or whether male MFDs will work their motor? Or if there is any MFD would like to hire more women employees, will that help them?
So I'll answer this both from the client's perspective as well as the MFD's perspective. So starting with the client, do women clients prefer women advisors? So again, I would say there is no one answer. It depends on the women's segment. Like I gave the example earlier, they could be an elderly lady, who needs more patient hand holding. And in that case, maybe she would prefer to have a woman advisor who tends to be more nurturing, more empathetic. And there could be another woman client who's a senior corporate person and has very little time and, is just wanting somebody who's competent and knows what they are doing. And therefore, in that case, gender is not the deal breaker or the maker. So as a woman myself, so for example, when I'm looking for any kind of service, be it a doctor, lawyer, so on and so forth, I'm looking for somebody based on meritocracy. To me, it doesn't make a difference whether it's a man or a woman. So as I said, it depends client to client. Do women MFDs or women employees generally have an edge in interacting with any client? So here I would say, maybe there is a little bit of naturally given gift. This entire business, it's a relationship management business. A large part of our job is about people. So of course we need to know our operations and the market movements and all that. But having said that, relationship is the key. So I think women have a natural edge as advisors, as mutual fund distributors. To be a good advisor, one needs to listen and empathize. Right? Now, women are naturally nurturers. They are the nurturers of nature, right? They are inclined to empathize and listen. And it is these soft skills that they are naturally gifted with, which give them a little edge in the relationship building sphere. And many people over the years, research has shown that in relationship building, it is not the technical skills, it is the soft skills that matter more. So I would say in this area, there is a little edge that women naturally have.
That's nice. I think, you put it very nicely. And I think that's the reason I think we need many female MFDs in the country today. I think we need to get more. Even that number I was just looking at, incidentally, we have a very less number of ARNs in that the active MFDs are much, much lesser. And kudos to you, you being there from the pioneer, from the beginning, thought in 2003, and you are part of those top 100 IFA club today, and you are part of that MDRT member, and then you are top of one of those 100 influential women in the financial industry. Kudos and thanks for joining us today here. And here I go to your next question is, do you suggest this nudging is most important for them? I mean, they are nudging the women, and I think, on the communication side, and they are very emotional and emotional balance. They're very emotionally balanced. Is there any communication tips which are very different? We need to do that. Is there any specific communication tips that can help building better and long-term relations with women?
So again, this is a perception where again we are trying to club and say women are emotional. Now, if you consider even in your organization or even in Cafe Mutual, there are so many senior women, right, who are taking tough business decisions, quick decisions, working long hours, right? So when they are working, they are taking business. Emotion is something that is, not really part of the equation. So similarly, when we are dealing with women clients, we should not go with these kind of perceptions that they are emotional or, they will not understand or they will not be able to take logical decisions. So I think these are just perceptions, and the more open-mindedly that we interact with women as a segment, we will realize that a lot of these perceptions have just been built over the years with social conditioning.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And this will be the last question to you before I go for the questions from the audience. There are a lot of questions coming from the audience. We can quickly run through this question. This question is very interesting one. I was just browsing your book, Investing is the New Cooking. And the topic is fantastic, and it's a woman's guide for the wealth creation. And indeed, you started with a quote on the Hillary Clinton saying that never that you are valuable and powerful and deserving of every chance in the world to pursue your dreams. I think it empowers the women to the extent possible. And you ended up with a Susie Orman's, every financial worry, you spoke about that. Can you brief what is the, it's an intriguing title, and what is the connection between cooking and investment, and what made you to write? And this book, I'm sure it would have come during the COVID time, 2020, it has been published.
So I wanted to relate investing to something women can relate to. Also, I wanted to draw parallel that today investing is a very basic skill set that all women need to have. Like we consider cooking to be a very basic skill set which all women should have. And like cooking, we learn slowly, we learn by asking others for guidance. We were not born knowing how to make dal makhani or chicken tikka. Similarly, with investing, I wanted to remove this fear and apprehension and this social conditioning that investing is a man's domain. And that is why I wanted to relate it to something that is something women relate with on a day-to-day basis, which is cooking. So that's how I wanted to bring it into women's domain by associating investing with cooking. So the message is that investing today, it's a very basic skill. It is something that all women should make the effort to become familiar with, because being able to manage your finances is something that empowers you to live a better life. So that's the thought process.
Yeah, it's a kudos to you for that simple idea, which makes a profound impact on any household, any woman who is reading that book, because it is so simple. And second part, people can get connected very quickly. Like you put it very nicely, woman has a categorize investing as a basic skill set at par with the investing. You are very clear there. And then your question of answering one question can put them to introspect. You mentioned there, do you need to take care of yourself and your family? Then you need to take care of your managing the money. It's relating and connecting to them. And I love that book. It's a very simple read, and it's very good for households. And probably when we are launching this program called For Her, we are doing a special campaign for women. Soon we are going to launch. We intend to reach out to almost 2 crore women in the next 2 years to educate them on the financial literacy. And I said it's for her, it's like that is where her money need to give the harmony. That's very our whole intention, and helping the women to championship and applauding those women. And I intend to apply it. We intend to have large women advisors to come into this forum, and we intend to get more MFDs in this space. And it's like, making healthier, wealthier, and happier women, which can constitute a happier economy, or it's that's where I look at it. It's like I was mentioning somewhere, it is like heart of home economy is it will become active participant in Indian economy. And then I was with one of those economics professors in Delhi sometime back. He was mentioning to us, in India, our GDP is not calculated right, because most of the homemakers, the value what they are creating is not counted into the GDP today. If you are adding that, Indian GDP would have been much higher. Otherwise, today just 18% of the GDP is coming from the women segment. It's per se. It could be 50% of it. If I am adding all the people. Now I'll go back to the questions. Thanks for that interesting answers and very insightful. It's very insightful, each of those answers, because the experience which you carry will go long way. And you mentioned very rightly in your book is investing is a learned skill. I think we can make everyone to teach that, everyone get that aptitude. And it's a fantastic. And second part, I like it. Some of those anecdotes you gave as stories, how why you need to kill the debts, and what is that? Comparing the two stories of the family and one how they become. It is a simple storytelling, but it is very profound. Thank you so much for that book. It's an interesting read. Now I'll go back to those questions. A lot of questions. Probably I'll take some because you have to rush back to the next meet. Let me try as much as okay. What is that? Yeah, it's a question comes from Sujata Anant. Need some tips on approaching women positions and VPs, CEOs, maybe C-suite people. How do you approach them?
So see, if somebody is in the senior echelons of the corporate world, right? What kind of person are they? Right? They are people who will be well informed. They will be decisive. They want information, cut through the clutter, cut through the jargon, understand them. So you need to put your entire pitch in a more concise manner, because the first question, like they have a platform, what you call a platform pitch. So the first thing is, why you? So if you go and say, place your money with my firm XYZ. So the first question is, why you? So you should have very clear cut. Your entire presentation should be very clear cut. This is what we do. This is what we offer. We have this competence. Ultimately, when you pitch to that kind of level of people, you have to demonstrate meritocracy, right? So it doesn't matter whether you come with a big brand name on your visiting card or a small brand name, or you've been 10 years. You will just get very little time with this kind of clientele, this kind of prospect. They don't have time to spend 1 hour having a cup of tea or something. So you need to go prepared in your mind. This is the pitch I will give. This is the thing which will set me apart. This is my unique selling proposition. If you already have had the first meeting, then in the next meeting or whatever the follow-up, right, you need to be very concise that this is what I've understood of your requirement. This is how we plan to approach it. These are our solutions. So this is how you need to, keep it different from giving a pitch to somebody else who may be wanting to spend 1 hour over a cup of tea, and, a different kind of a relationship which may require more hand holding and so on and so forth.
Thank you so much for that answer. I think, hope, Mr. Jata, we have now addressed that on your elevator pitch to be ready for the C-suite employees. And here is a question coming from Roshni Nayak. In financial planning, involvement of both the spouses, both the couple is crucial. How do you handle that?
So what you're saying is absolutely right. In fact, this is something that is very close to our heart in Capitally. And over the years, every time we have met our client, typically most of them would be men, and if it's at their residence, we always make the effort, to sort of indicate, why don't you call your wife to the discussion? Or if the wife is coming and, offering tea, or say, we'll say, okay, why don't you join us? And also if one time the wife has made the effort to join, we go out of our way to ensure that we don't throw jargon, we don't try to complicate, we explain everything in terms which give the big picture and explain the message in clear, concise, simple terms. So yes, it is very important to involve the spouse.
Yeah, thank you so much. There's a question coming from Mr. Ramalingam from Chennai. And Mr. Ramalingam is asking, how do you deal with millennials versus elderly women investors? Do's and don'ts while approaching the millennials.
So, as I mentioned earlier, the millennials are likely to be the ones who have grown up in a more open, progressive environment, right? So they are more open in having a discussion with you about finances. They are watching things on TV. They are seeing things on social media, on Twitter, this, that, right? And so they are aware. They would have heard few things. So if you're talking to them about whatever, some structured product or some equity fund, it's not a complete black board, right? You are still. Whereas you could be talking to somebody who's 75-year-old, who's gone through a particular social conditioning, where all decisions have so far been taken by a husband or some uncle or some brother or something. And if that person has to now take decisions, right, that person obviously is more nervous, is unsure, doesn't know whether to trust you. Even if you're putting the correct information, there'll be doubt. So with that kind of a person, you need to spend much more time patiently explaining why you've chosen a particular product, what are the risks, so the kind of communication that you have with a millennial vis-a-vis the communication that you have with the elderly person are different, right? One is more open, relatively more informed, and the other is likely to be in a situation where they may not be informed and may not be confident about this entire field.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. Such a clarity which has come in. Here is the next question. I think Anil D has asked, where is this book published? Anil, this book is available on Amazon. You can order it on the physical paperback, or the book is also available in the Kindle form. And that's the easiest way in the pandemic time. You can look at, and it's an interesting, simple, very less number of pages, but you can absorb a lot. It's a very interesting book. And here is a question, Kapil Sharma. What is the basic certification MBA HR marketing can to get into become financial? Mr. Sharma, you need to write an ISM examination. You can write to me. I can guide you fully how you can become an MFD. If you are not an MFD, that's you can definitely do that. And here is one naughty question which is coming in. Don't you think cooking in finance is a fishy word? How to break the stereotype? But I think, shall I answer this, or would you like to answer?
No, you please take it.
Yeah, I think, it's a probably in the finance where we are in, it's a fishy word. But in a cooking home, if I go to any Bengali family, that fishy is also a fantastic thing to be cooked. But when it comes to women, the cooking is, she's serving us nutritious food every day at home, either taking care of the children, father or husband or everyone. The whole purpose of this book on investing is, if you are investing rightly like a cooking, it's not exactly a nutritious food for a day, but it is a wealthicious food for you for the lifetime. It is a well-being for the lifetime. Anything you would like to add, you can.
No, that's that same message that for any of us individuals, having a strong financial foundation is something that empowers your own life. It empowers the life of your family. It gives you so many choices, right? And having a good financial health, it affects you to have a good mental health, good physical health. So it is something which has got a lot of ramifications. So it is very important for us to spread this message as advisors, as mutual fund distributors, in whichever way we can, because it actually improves the lives of our overall client family. It is not just the one client we are dealing with.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And here is a question coming from Srinivas Dara. In your opinion, are women more risk appetite or risk averse most commonly?
So as I said, there is no, first is the answer to that is no. It is not that women are risk averse or cautious or anything. It is just that they will seem like that because of the social conditioning. So for example, if I call 100 men into a kitchen and ask them to cook something, right? And if I see it, I will say, oh, men are very cautious about cooking, men are very ill-informed. It is just because it is likely that the vast majority have not been exposed to cooking. But the same segment of 100 men, if you slowly expose them, and then after 6 months they enter, after 1 year, you will find them to be much more confident. So inherently, it is not that women are risk averse or cautious or anything like that. It just seems like that.
Yeah. I'll have only a couple of questions first because already we are timing up for you. There are some questions I can answer very quickly. Shivaji Vaman and Dinesh Kumar and Prabir Sharma, they're asking what is the book name. The book name is Investing is the New Cooking, A Woman's Guide to Wealth Creation, written by Sapna Narang. It is available on the Amazon, you can look at. And I think Nishant has already replied to you on that. Here is a Praveen Kulkarni. Don't you think women have a special affection towards the gold?
So this is social conditioning that we have. So for example, if I think of my grandmother or my mother, so women tend to, like I said, be nurturers and carers. They want to take care of their family. So earlier, if they had to, have a store of value, बुरे वक्त में बेचेंगे. So what was available other than gold and property? There was nothing available in India, 30 years back. So if I think of my grandmother, so that thing has historically come. So every Diwali you buy a few gold coins or whatever it may be. Land is a property, typically requires a land. So actually what our grandmothers were doing, but they were doing a annual SIP in gold coin. So every Diwali they would buy a gold coin or 2 gold coins or whatever it was. But today, if you see the younger women, obviously they are buying equity, they are buying bonds, they're buying this, because all these options are available now, right? So it is not that women have this thing to gold. It is because of the circumstances that nothing else was available. Even today, to the large section of population, mutual funds are not available. The penetration is still a very small percentage.
I'll put this last question. Rest of the questions we can answer later through the Cafe Mutual mode to them. And here is a question coming from NS Srilakshmi. Hello, ma'am. Warm good evening. I have a question. How to reach out to household wife to enter into the mutual fund investments? How to educate them?
Okay, so there are 2 things here. First is as mutual fund distributors. So what are we trying to do? We are trying to build our business, right? How do we build our business? We have to target first the low-lying fruit, right? So they could be somebody who's selling coolers, they could be somebody who's selling air conditioners and so forth, right? So where will they go first? Where it is hot. So similarly, we are selling mutual fund, right? Or some investment product. So first, instead of trying to target the homemakers, I will first target the women who are working because they have their own source of income. And also within that segment, I will try to interact with the younger women who are more exposed to the internet, more exposed to information, more exposed to being early adopters in the financial investment space, right? So reaching out to housewives is a good notion, but in terms of building a business, in terms of, so a lot of the housewives may not have access to their own funds. They may not be the main decision makers in investing in the family. So from that point of view, from a MFD's approach, maybe it will be more appropriate to first target women who are earning and who are the younger segment.
Thank you so much, Sapnaji, for that answer. Hope that has answered you probably, but I request there is another dimension to what she said. Probably if anybody want to reach out to the homemakers today, before investments, this is a time of the COVID. Let us reach out to those household women, homemakers, about the whole family, what they have invested, and have a glancery check whether all the nominations are intact, and have a glancery check on the insurance. Do everyone at home is aware how to claim, And do they have those medical insurances available immediately to pick it up if there is anything is happened? And let us be a service oriented to those people today. I'm sure they can become your own investors tomorrow. Probably this is the time we need to go a little extra mile to serve the families. Probably the last leg I can say is, can we also help them to get that simple will writing so that everything can be in place? Because I have seen the havoc in some of the families, because this COVID, this time it has taken away not one person, but 2 or 3 in the family. That was a tragic situation, and we have a onus of responsibility to serve them very differently. And before they become our clients, the clients who are already there, we can educate those women. I mean, that could be a fantastic thing to do. I mean, I'm little extension to what Sapna ji said. Trust today's session would have been very interesting for each one of you, and it is a great, she took some time, and we are sorry Vinita was to join in the morning, but it was the last minute. She was not keeping well, and we wish her and pray that she will recover very faster, and Sapna could jump in and come back. That shows the commitment made from the Capital League side. Probably, it is, I was just looking at today, we always talk about IPL. And if we are looking at women coming into the investments, the Capital League has put all women employees in space. If I look at all women have started investing and talking, discussing, we have a different IPL in the country. That is the Investors Prosperity League, India's Prosperity League it can become. And just to take a few points away from the discussion of Sapna, I look at is, women are not very different, and each of us are very different. Like the personal finance, person comes before the finance, means it's different from each one of us. We don't need to have a stereo based, women are like this or men are like this. I mean, both of us, women are strategically, they are more decisive too, but how we can approach and engaging them and communicating them, it will become very crucial. And women are going to be a significant household earners, and they are going to get a lot of inheritance. We can't ignore them while we are building our business. And women are willingness to get educated. She mentions even in that book, and women are emotionally strong. And of course, she did mention that women reach women in a very different way. And of course, men cannot be get away from there, but they can get always educated. And trust is the foundation when you are reaching to the women. And it is like, this is a power of purse, but is a power to pursue from us. And like I keep jokingly telling, it's at my home, I'll tell whenever there is a pedicure, manicure, in the mutual fund industry and financial services industry, we have a different kind of pedicure and manicure. That pedicure for me is PEDI, pension, equity, debt, and insurance. And the manicure is mutual funds, alternate investments, and investment structures. Probably we can make that, investment is as simple as cooking. We can make this pedicure and manicure reach in a very different way. And women could be the next wave of growth for the business to come in. If I can look at some of the data of the DMAT accounts, and only thing what we need to do is we need to get ourselves taking the time to educate them and empower them. And this is I keep always telling, Cafe Mutual, when I come, I see that CAFE is the most important today for us. When you are going, you need to be caring, and you need to be very affectionate to them. And you need to be very friendly, and you need to be an empowering. That is the 4 traits where you can make you to acquire women and also continue the business with women. With this, I'll stop, and wishing you, each one of you, good health. Do take care, and do serve your existing clients in the current needs. Probably the first thing is to check the nominations, because I have seen many of such cases in my own colleagues' places. It's a couple who died, and both of them are tech savvy. We do not have any information where the investments are. And it's our responsibility. Even somebody would have invested through a fintech platform, whichever the platform, as an MFD, it's a high tech to high touch. This is the time we need to touch them to connect on how we can correct them. And wish you take care of this responsibility. Thanks for joining this evening. My personal thanks to Sapna ji for taking our time out. I invite Nishant or Anita to have a concluding one. God bless you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rao and Sapna, for that insightful session. As always, Mr. Rao, you have covered all the important questions that would immensely benefit our audience. And thank you so much for the abbreviation CAFE. And finally, thank you so much, Sapna, for making it last minute. And you have delivered such a wonderful session. And we hope a speedy recovery of Vinita. And finally, I thank all of you for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Nishant, and thanks again to Sapna and entire Cafe Mutual team. And I wish Capital League and team a very good luck. They are the pioneers, not only in the family office, but empowering the women. And I would like to seek this platform to request Sapna ji be on our sounding board for us. We are on a journey to go on a big project called Her Money. And this is reaching out to 2 crore women in India to educate in the next 2 years. Definitely, I'll be coming back to seeking some ideas how we can go, and we seek your support. And thank you so much once again.
Thank you.